I was very perturbed to see Whoopi's comments, because when you're talking about the uncommitted vote that was taken in Dearborn, Michigan, and really the initiative that was taken. And I spoke to Rashida Tlaib today, and I'm working on linking with her sister, and because that's who really pushed it. When you're talking about that, I feel like it is so inept and myopic to say that people who feel like they don't want to vote for Biden because of how he is behaving around Khasa are single issue voters. Is I can't understand why anybody would say that with like real common sense. So Whoopi Goldberg was on The View today talking about the fact that there was a large voter turnout in Michigan during their primaries that voted uncommitted. And, the uncommitted vote basically states that you're voting, but you're not committing to any of the candidates that are on the ballot. And what it is kind of like a proof of life. It's saying, like, we're part of the process, we're here, but we're in the primaries phase, and we are going to let you know that neither of you have done anything to win our vote yet. But we're going to vote because we're showing you that we are a voter bloc and that we matter. And us voting uncommitted pulls from the votes. And Michigan is a state that was flipped. Okay. So they're showing, like, if they got over 10,000 votes, that's showing that these were the amount of votes that you lost or won by, depending on if you're talking about Trump or Biden. So this is a valid number. They ended up getting 100,000 uncommitted votes. Let me take a sip. So when you have that many people saying, we are willing to be a part of this voting process, but we are not going to vote for you, it really speaks volumes, particularly in a state that is a battleground state. Like, this is a reality. And it also says that the Arab community is saying, we are a voter bloc that you need to care about. Notice the organizing that went down for this, and notice the fact that they actually voted. Now, I know that within my Black community, there's a lot of folks that are like, you know what, the way that we show that we are not to be toyed with is that we just don't vote at all. But what you're doing when you do that is you are removing yourself from the actual democratic process. And now, even though how democratic is the process when it comes to the president, that is up for debate. Don't get me wrong. I still believe in voting as a practice, 100%. And I still believe that at the end of the day, this country still likes to pretend like it's a democracy. So it's only going to go so far. And up until this point, they have been able to get away with a lot of shit. Like I always say, I feel like Trump in 2020 started saying they stole the vote because he was like, well, y'all stole it from me in 2016. So, like, why didn't you do it again? He's like, this is what you did in 2016 so that I could win. Why you didn't do it for me again? So voting uncommitted, yes, Diane Tate, voting uncommitted is basically saying, you see me, I see you. What are you doing? Because, honey, I'm here, but you ain't got me there. That is what voting uncommitted says to a candidate. And we all know that these candidates thrive on staying in office, and they need to stay in office, and they need to get votes to stay in office. Now, there's other things that they need to do to stay in office, right? I mean, they need to get the support of lobbyists, they need to get the support of corporate dollars, et cetera. But ultimately, the whole sham is that they use all of those corporate dollars and lobbyists to try and convince you all, we all, us all, to vote for them, so that is how they get in office. Like, that's the dance. Okay? That's the dance. So when Whoopi Goldberg sits up here and says something like, oh, this is them saying that they're single issue voters, and essentially alluding to the fact that by them being uncommitted, they're like putting votes in Donald Trump's pocket, it really is just it's an unintellectual assessment of the situation. Also, there are delegates in each state that end up being a part of who gets determined as the candidate for the DNC. Now, granted, there should be other people in the primaries everywhere on the Democratic side of things. Okay. The fact that, like, it's assumed that Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic candidate is really nonsense. I mean, that's just the facts. But the other fact, though, is that when it comes to the determining of the candidacy of the nominee, no, when it comes to the determining of the candidate, it's the delegates in each state. The delegates are supposed to represent the electorate of sorts, the people. And each state is supposed to nominate, when you watch the conventions, they're like, Michigan nominates Joe Biden, etc. Then you have super delegates in each state, right? And these are the delegates that have like a bit more, panache. They have a bit more aplomb. Those are your governors, your mayors, etc. Right? And so all of this adds up, and in the primaries is when all of this should be happening. So often, what happens, y'all? We're here with a Republican and a Democrat, and folks are upset, and they're just like, we should have had a better option. Well, this is when you do this in the primaries. So I don't know what Whoopi Goldberg is talking about. Whoopi, sit this one out. Sit this one out. You're not making no sense. There's also just the other reality that to suggest that what's going on in Palestine is a single issue, like, ma'am, cut it out. Cut it out. How is it a single issue? There's so many issues wrapped up in Palestine. It's really a one-stop shop. It's a one-stop shop. It is. I'm just looking at my Black sisters, and I'm like, between Whoopi and Tiffany Haddish, I'm like, what y'all doing? What y'all doing? Why y'all doing this? Why y'all doing this? So, that's some insight on the uncommitted vote and the theory behind it. And I think that when you all say this, I think you all kind of give people a bit too much credit. I think sometimes you really think that it's like, someone cut them a check and whatever. And sometimes it's not even like that. It's not even like that. Sometimes people are just like, extra. They want to hear themselves talk. Well, I just think that ultimately there's something that is to be said about knowing what you're talking about and knowing the many ways that people can make themselves heard. And yeah, Tequila, listen, I'm trying my best to like break shit down, because I ask people to break shit down for me. I don't know about all of this shit. I'm learning. So I call people. And I'm very fortunate to have people to call. You need to have people to call. You need to identify people in your circle that can help you with shit that you don't know. And they need to be able to identify how you can help them understand things that they don't know. We need to have intellectual community. Yeah. We need to have that symbiosis.